Hello, my name is Christopher Morrison, and welcome to my presentation on assessments, I-loan, and analysis. In this presentation, I will give an overview of assessment. We will talk about one type of assessment called the I-loan exam, and then we will take a look at class results and make conclusions on those class results for a fourth grade math I-loan exam. Then we will take individual scores from the class results and make analysis so that we can make recommendations to put the class into special groups based on their needs. Then we will conclude the slideshow. So what is assessment? I believe assessment is one of the most important parts of being a teacher. This is because assessment allows teachers to see what is sticking with the students and what is not sticking, the strengths and weaknesses from the data of those students. If a student is struggling in algebra but doing great in computation, then the teacher can adjust to the individual student's needs and give them more work on algebra instead of computation, and they can talk to the student about what can I do to help you understand algebra better. And then also, assessment helps the teacher know what they need to adjust for their classroom. If the whole class or majority of class is not understanding algebra, then they can reassess the way they teach algebra and adjust for their students. And assessments can be through selected response, written response, personal communication, and performance and product. There are 5 keys to assessment: purpose, which is why you are assessing and what you are assessing. Target is the goal and the standard that you want your students that you're assessing to be at. Format, like we discussed, is the type of assessment it is. For example, written response would possibly be an essay. Feedback is how feedback is given to the students. This can be done in class, it can be done on a rubric. And involvement, intervening with the students that need help and finding out what you can do to help that student. And if a student's doing great, possibly helping prep them for a next grade level. So I-loan, it replaces I-STEP as the mandatory standardized test for Indiana. And I always hated I-STEP growing up because it's timed and I have test anxiety, and that timer stresses me out more. And what I like about I-loan is that it's not timed. This can really help students show their proficiency because they're not battling the clock and getting stressed out because of it. And being computer adaptive helps too because they aren't just sitting in a desk for hours circling a Scantron, they're actively on the computer. And this begins in 3rd grade and ends in 8th grade for math, which will be the focus of today's slideshow. And again, this is just one way to measure performance. There's many other ways. A sample math problem would be, for the 4th grade I-loan exam, would be to compare fractions. The first example, there are 6 boxes and 1 is shaded in. The student would take the 1 shaded box and make a fraction out of it, out of the amount of boxes there are. So this answer would be 1/6. Now to review the 4th grade math percentages of items on the I-loan. 19 to 24% of the I-loan exam for 4th grade involves questions on algebraic thinking and data analysis. This involves students' understanding of the relationship between numbers, being able to see patterns and make predictions based on those patterns. 23 to 28% of the test focuses on computation, which involves taking 2 numbers or multiple numbers and adding them, subtracting them, multiplying them. 19 to 24% of the exam has questions on geometry and measurements. This involves graphing, shapes. 23 to 28% of the exam involves number sense, which tests the student's ability to take math into the real world and do math in their head, because students aren't always going to have a calculator with them or graphing paper with them. And all this information can be found on the blueprint provided by the indiana.gov website. Each portion of the test has standards, critical standards, and for this example, I'll use computation. There are many, but here's three of them. One is that students are able to add and subtract multi-digit whole numbers fluently using a standard algorithmic approach. The second standard is multiply a whole number of up to 4 digits by a one-digit whole number, and multiply two two-digit numbers using strategies based on place value and the properties of operations, and being able to describe the process and why they did what they did. And then the last one is being able to find whole number coordinates and remainders with up to 4-digit dividends and one-digit divisions using strategies based on place value, the properties of operations, and the relationship between multiplication and division, and then again being able to describe the strategy and the reasoning behind it. Now we have results of a fourth grade math class ILON. On the right hand is all the results, and on the left hand we have a chart of the amount of students and the proficiency level. 13 of the students are below fourth grade math proficiency level. 6 are approaching, while 11 are at proficiency level, and 4 students are above proficiency level. And if we break this into at and above proficiency and a portion of the class cut into the approaching and below proficiency, we'll see that 44.1% of the class are at or above proficiency level for math in fourth grade, while 55.9% are approaching or below. So this class has more students under proficiency level than at or above. Now we can look at overall results and cut scores. The highest number that a student can get is 6,800. The lowest a student can get is 6,100. The range of scores in this classroom is 6,331 to 6,658. And the mean of this class is 6,459. This was found by adding up all the scores and dividing by the number of students, which is 34. And this data shows that most students are in between approaching proficiency and at proficiency. Here's the individual scores by students. And here is the same graph, but with lines to show where they are at proficiency rise. The yellow line represents approaching proficiency. Everything below that line is below proficiency. The green line represents at proficiency, and the blue line represents above proficiency. So what conclusions can we make based on this? First, let's look at the statewide proficiency rate for mathematics in fourth grade, which is 37.1%. Unfortunately, this class is below that statewide proficiency rate at 32.4%. Most students are below proficiency rate than at it, and 15 students are college ready in this classroom. So now we can take that data and make special groups based on this. Students that are under the score of 6,400 need significant intervention. These students are 3, 6, 8, 12, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 29, 32, 33, and 34. The teacher needs to talk to these students and figure out what they are not understanding and work with them to see what they can do to help these students understand, and possibly even going back a few sessions or a few grade levels to see what they were taught and how they were taught, and then correcting that so they can understand the fourth grade math. Students with a score over 6,500 can receive more challenging material to prep them for fifth grade. And these students are students 2, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 17, 24, 26, 28, 30, and 31. Now we can make recommendations to these special groups. One website that can really help students that are proficient and above to help them prep for fifth grade is this game on splashloan.com. And this is a game where students will identify coordinates on a graph because geometry is very represented in the fifth grade iLoan exam. For students of all levels, they can practice their computation via this multiplication game, multiplication blocks. Students will get a number on the right hand side in gray, and then they have to multiply these blocks to get that number. So on the right hand side, it'd be in the bottom 6 and 2 equals 12. And they do that until the time limit goes away or they have all the blocks gone. And this is for all levels because students that are at proficiency and above, this keeps them sharp. And then those that are below or approaching, this can help them understand multiplication more and give them practice. And for students that are below efficiency, this game via realteachers.com, this goes back to third grade and it can help reteach something that they may not have got in a prior grade. And this involves multiplication, those cards, and each player flips 2 cards and then draws a grid and makes dots where the lines are joined. And then they count the dots, and then the person with the most keeps all the cards. So here it's 5 times 4, so they make 20 dots, and then they get it right, they collect the cards. And again, this helps students catch up. So first off, thank you for listening. And assessment is so important. It can make or break a student's educational experience. I've heard so many times, oh, this teacher didn't teach this correctly, so I failed. And just taking that extra step can really help make a student's educational experience. And to stress, standardized tests is not the end all be all for measurement. There are other educational interactions that a standardized test does not show. A limitation of this presentation is I'm a student learning about this assessment. I have limited real world experience from being a tutor, but I'm still learning. I have not had my own classroom. I've only had a small amount of students, but I'm looking forward to learning more. Thank you for listening.